Township Board of Education. Roll call, please. Mr. Garvin.
Present.
Dr. Love.
Present.
Mrs. Mangano did call. She is at her son's Christmas concert this evening, won't be joining us. Mrs. Malley is in Florida. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Moretti.
Present.
Mr. Sanchez.
Here.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
She's in Howell. Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
A quorum is present. Shall we rise to salute the flag, and then please remain standing as we are treated to a rendition of the national anthem by Ms. Zoe Leibowitz.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gayly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, see to lose that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Zoe, would you mind staying up at the podium for a moment? I'm going to ask Mr. Bongiovanni to join me.
We're ready for records. We're ready for a football game.
Zoe, thank you so much for sharing your talents with us tonight. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to present you with this certificate of your achievement. So again, thank you so much. Come on in.
Thank you. Announcement by the President and as read by the Secretary. Adequate notices of this meeting as required by Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, were distributed by the Secretary on November 29, 2017. It is now time for our recognitions and awards. Starting with the Board President and Superintendent's remarks regarding those recognitions and awards. Mr. Isola and Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, thank you. Tonight, Mr. Isola, I believe we have the distinct pleasure of recognizing two of our staff members, as well as recognizing two of our sitting board members tonight for their service tonight. Have I missed anything else?
You have it, sir.
Okay, very good. So then, we're going to defer exec until after recognitions, Mr. Sanasai?
Yes, in fact, I believe what Mr. Isola asked is that we move the nursing awards, which originally was in the agenda for after exec, to accompany these two awards.
Absolutely, so we'll include the nursing report after we conclude recognition. Okay, terrific. Well, with that, what I'd like to do then, we can start with our staff members?
Sure, thank you, sir. Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. It's always a
say this so much, I hope it never loses its importance or its meaning. I know the board joins me and the senior admin and this entire community in acknowledging the fine work that our staff and our students do. And each and every time we have that opportunity, it is uniquely important. Tonight, we will recognize two of our staff members who have gone above and beyond in becoming ambassadors for Schoology, which is our learning management system. Ms. Sanger will talk briefly about that in just a second. But I do need to point out something very important. Stephen will be recognized, Stephen Rail will be recognized for the second straight year, and we're very pleased to see one of our middle school teachers, Chris Collins, who's recovering here, as you can see, is our first middle school teacher to gain this prestigious recognition. But I think Chris took to heart when I said Stephen has big shoes to fill, and he went out and had something going on with his foot here. So I want to thank him for being so literal and putting his health, secondary to the important work that the school district tries to accomplish. At this time, I'll ask Ms. Angle to step to the podium and introduce these two fine gentlemen.
Thank you. Being a Schoology ambassador is a great distinction. These individuals are teacher leaders. There are only approximately 100 Schoology ambassadors in the nation, and we are lucky enough to have 3 in New Jersey, and we have 2 of them, of course, in Howell Township. There are only a handful of districts throughout the nation that have 2 Schoology ambassadors, more than 1 individual within their district. And as Mr. Isola indicated, for the 2018 school year, Mr. Rayo has been reappointed. Schoology just could not let him go. He has been a great proponent of the program, and Mr. Collins is now the newest of our Schoology ambassadors in the district. What the program provides is it allows these 2 individuals to understand new advancements that are going on within Schoology, our learning management system. They get cool swag. They're able to attend various webinars, and Schoology really looks to them to be able to test some things out. Last year we were fortunate enough to test out various programs that were new enhancements that were coming out within Schoology, and we got early release of those things. So there are a couple things that our district gets in having ambassadors within this program. So without further ado, you have some board members that would like to come up and assist.
Yes,
Yes, I do. So we have Mr. Rayo, reappointed, and for those of you that weren't here last year, he was also named Schoology Ambassador of the Year, so they definitely couldn't let him go for the 2018 school year. Congratulations. And Mr. Chris Collins, he is our newest ambassador named by Schoology.
Twitter and Facebook in 30 seconds. Thank you. So the work that happened, we're in our second year with the learning management system, the one that we're utilizing in Schoology, and I think both Stephen and Chris would agree, and I know Ms. Angle certainly would, it is really changing the way we're working as professionals and interacting with students. It's really helping us leverage our digital platforms and our work in terms of the one-to-one environment. And I think it's really been a game changer. And I know that Stephen and Chris would echo those feelings. I can remember when we were piloting it, Mr. Collins saying, Joe, this is great stuff, but once you get it for us, don't ever take it away. Because we're gonna invest in it, we're gonna get really good at it, and it's gonna be, it's gonna really level the playing field in a lot of ways, and certainly I think we're seeing that. So I wanna thank the board for their support, in making sure our environment is of the richest nature for our staff and for our students, so thank you. And now we're up to our board recognition, sir?
Yes, we're going to come over to the podium. Now, normally I don't get to stand. It's been a while since I've been here. I think it was 2009. Okay, very good.
Still not operating.
Yeah, there you go. Who needs a mic? Come on.
That's right.
All right, so two folks that we want to recognize tonight from our Board of Education. I'm going to start with Mr. Angel Sanchez. We were very, very fortunate when Mr. Pompo, one of our esteemed board members, had to step down. Mr. Sanchez was a community leader already who wanted to step up and fill that role for us so we can continue to operate at the high level that we do. And I want to thank you, sir, for your willingness to take the time and effort and the service you provided. But your service isn't just in here. You've been a long-standing member of our committees, many years. You continue to coach actively in youth soccer and football, I believe. And I'm very pleased to hear that you'll continue to be involved as we go forward, because this is just the beginning of your career, your involvement with education and supporting our community. So it's people like you that help this board continue to do good work, support and create an atmosphere of excellence and achievement for our students and our staff. So I want to thank you very much for your contributions this year and look forward to your ongoing contributions in the future. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you very much.
Please accept this certificate of appreciation for everything you've done for us this year. Thank you. Okay, now, a few years ago, I had the distinct pleasure, I forget how many years ago it was a while back, of meeting this fellow, Jim Moretti. Now, if anyone sees Jim when he stands up, he's hard to miss. I mean, he's a big guy. But in addition to his size, he also has an equally large heart, which he gives every day to this community, has done so for so many, many years. Long before he came to the Board of Education, he was involved in the community on many boards throughout civic activities. He's been a leader, he's been a local businessman, and getting elected to the school board was as easy as falling off a log for Jim, because everybody knew him. I mean, come on, you know that. He let out the word that he was going to get involved. Friends and people that knew him in the community came out and said, this would be a great choice for our Board of Education. They were absolutely right. He has done a terrific job from chairing our safety to helping us form and lead our legislative advocacy committee to being a stalwart voice for public education. Because remember now, think about it. Public education has been under assault for years by different forces out there. And it takes champions like Jim to get up there and stand up for what's right, because public education is one of the single most important aspects of a free society. It gives every single child an opportunity to lift themselves up. And your efforts here have helped to make this district the best in the state. I can say that. I'm not going to say one of the best. I'm going to say the best in the state. Howell leads, and it's in large part due to your efforts, Jim Moretti. So I want to thank you for your service. You will be deeply missed. But again, I'm very glad to hear that you've agreed to stay on as a citizen member on our committees. We will appreciate your wise counsel going forward, and we're so glad that you're staying involved. Thank you again for everything you've done.
Angel, this says something for both of you. When your board members are being trained, we often tell them that the worst sound that you could possibly hear is somebody opening their board packet for the first time at a meeting and not having reviewed stuff, not having gone over stuff. And it's been both your strength and Angel's strength right from the beginning that when you had questions, at least you were on the board for a longer piece than I was when I came back. But there's always been that communication in terms of, hey, can we talk about this? Can you explain this? Can we check this out first? There was never, okay, well, I'll go to the meeting and I'll vote. There was always the research that was needed to make sure that you were doing an educated, informed vote for the best for the community, not just the children, the community as a whole. And that's been very active, evident, especially with your activities with your advocacy and legislative pieces. So, let me echo the whole word again. Thank you.
We placed you outside of middle school north, so your name will be part of those folks who are. May I say something? Before you do that, I want to say one last thing. I almost forgot. Arlene, where's that?
Right behind.
There you go. Okay. I want to say also an important thank you to someone who shared gym with us for these many years, because one of the things that happens is those late hours, those many hours away serving the community, were something that you gave up and we benefited from. So thank you so much for sharing gym with us.
Thank you.
I just want to say a few words.
When I say words, I'm good.
I came here with Al, we ran on the same ticket for the students and to keep the taxes low. When I arrived, that was not necessary. This whole board here, the students are number one. And they're always cutting the budget. This guy's sharp pencil, Ron Sansack, had a sharper pencil than me. And I tell you, I learned so much here. Sitting down with Joe, because I had no idea what I was doing. Joe sat with me and explained to me. Bruce told me what education was all about. Patty taught me the alphabet. The anagrams, I call it the alphabet. I mean, it's a sheet like this here. I still have headache trying to think about that. Larry, meeting him, and my partner, Denise, I don't know what to say. She sits back there. She nurtured me. She showed me a lot of things about schools. And of course, we can't go without talking about Teresa. Without her putting all the minutes together, putting all the stuff together, make sure everything was good, couldn't do it. And of course, our president and our vice president. The vice president, he introduced me to all different sites I should be looking at to get information from, and I got a lot of information. He showed, but most of all, my wife. Without her backing me, making sure I come to these meetings, to make sure I come dressed decently. Decent, no suits like Mr. Suit. Thank you.
Well, with that, Mr. Isola, I think we have concluded our recognitions. Now we're ready for our nursing report.
So, before we turn it over to Mrs. Callen to introduce Ms. Donahue for our nursing report, our annual nursing report, I would like to say on behalf of senior administration and the entire school district that both Mr. Moretti and Mr. Sanchez have served diligently, and our school district is better for your service. And I can't tell you what a model you both have been in terms of boardmanship and your commitment. And sincerely, we are grateful for your service, and thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Mrs. Callen will introduce our lead nurse, Ms. Donahue, for the report and the information necessary for that.
Thank you, Mr. Isola. Tonight we have Mrs. Lynn Donahue here with us, who's going to be presenting the nursing services report. It's a report that we give every year to the board that details the services that we provide from the nursing offices, the health offices in each of the schools. It has a lot of data, how many students are seeing, what some of the medical concerns are, etc., and also outlines our staffing plans and other things related to the health office. So I'd like to invite Mrs. Donahue up to the podium and thank all of our nurses who are here, and we even have spouses of nurses who couldn't be here tonight, and their spouses came to support Mrs. Donahue, so that's very sweet. And also Kathleen, one of our retired nurses, came this evening to support Mrs. Donahue. So thank you everyone for coming out, and
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Mr. Sola, Mr. Preston, Mrs. Calendar, colleagues, and community members. I'm here tonight to present the 2017 District Nursing Services Plan. My goal is to present the nursing services plan that assures the organization of the student health services and which clarifies the role of the certified school nurse, resulting in a more effective delivery of health services. Following the state mandate, the district has developed the nursing services plan, and I'm here tonight to present the plan to the board for your approval. It can then be submitted to the county superintendent of education for review and their approval. The staffing plan for our nursing department includes a vice principal and supervisor. That's Mrs. Doyle, who can't be here with us tonight. She's out on maternity leave, but I heard from her tonight to give us our support. My position, which is a head nurse stipend position. We have one certified school nurse in each of our buildings, and we have 4 part-time registered nurses who work under the supervision of the certified school nurse. 2 of our RNs are permanently assigned to assist at each of our middle schools daily, and 2 of our RNs are in the elementary schools, and they all provide nursing coverage for our after-school activities. The nursing services that are provided by our nurses are vast. We have in our district over 2,000 students with medical involvement. The health office visits totaled over 106,000 visits this past year, with most of that daily activity occurring at Middle School North and Middle School South. We administered over 11,800 medications. Over 1,300 sports physicals were reviewed at Middle School North and Middle School South, and over 1,500 medical updates, which are required before each sports season. EMS was activated 17 times. 465 student accident reports were completed by the nurses, and 104 workers' comp forms were completed. We have over 540 students with asthma in the district, and each student with an order for an inhaler or nebulizer. It's state mandated to also have an asthma treatment plan in school, which the nurses follow up and ensure that those are provided by their physicians. Our nurses also work with parents to create emergency plans that are then distributed to staff to ensure that our students are safe during the day. We currently have 15 students with diabetes district-wide, and the law does require that we have educate all our staff personnel on symptoms of low blood sugar and high blood sugar, as well as the specific symptoms that student might portray. We develop health care plans and emergency plans and make accommodations for our students for school trips, after-school activities, and then in addition, we train glucagon delegates that can administer glucagon, which is a life-saving drug if someone's blood sugar drops very low. That could be given in the absence of the school nurse. Food allergies do present quite a challenge throughout the district. We have 401 students with food allergies district-wide. The most common allergies being tree nuts and soy and fish, peanuts and shellfish, eggs, wheat, and dairy. We make accommodations for our students with severe allergies by helping them make healthy and safe food choices, teaching our students about food allergies, working with students and parents and doctors to create health plans for the classroom and on the buses, We train EpiPen delegates, and then we administer medications as needed. We've had over 200 physicians' orders for epinephrine to be distributed district-wide last year. And our nurses provided 495 student-specific trainings. And that would be a specific symptom for that student to provide a delegate. So we did many of those trainings for the year. We also in the district have a standing order for the administration of epinephrine. And that permits the school nurse or trained designee to administer epinephrine to any student without a known history of anaphylaxis when the school nurse or the designee believes the student is having an anaphylactic reaction, or whose parent has not yet provided the necessary paperwork. Dr. Gamina, our school physician, provides us with that standing order, and then we train delegates to administer that epinephrine in our absence if it was necessary. Student emergency plans are developed by our certified nurses for students with asthma, severe allergies, diabetes, seizures, cardiac issues, as well as other medical issues that arise. Over 445 student emergency plans were developed by our nurses and then distributed to the appropriate staff members. 422 individual health care plans were developed, and 277 bus emergency plans were developed and then given to our transportation department. In addition, our nurses do take care of the mandated health screenings that were required by law. We do blood pressure screenings, and this year 20 students were referred for blood pressures that weren't within the normal range, as well as hearing screenings, and 33 students were referred. And we have Mrs. Morris here helping doing one of the screenings that was at our Dina school. In addition, we do vision screenings on our pre-K, kindergarten, 2nd, 4th, and 6th, and 8th grade students. Screened over 3,500 students and made 357 referrals for vision. Scoliosis screenings on our 5th and 7th grade students and had over 50 referrals. Here we have Mrs. Achera from our Dina school doing a vision screening using the standard Snellen chart. And then we have Mrs. Trainer, who's using a spot camera, and that's a camera from the Lions Club, which has been a wonderful tool, been on loan to us for screening our very young and nonverbal students. In fact, this year the camera picked up a vision issue for a student who would not have been able to be screened using the traditional method, and it was a very significant finding by the camera. Additional responsibilities that the nurses perform in their health office include catheterizations, hearing aid checks, substance abuse screenings, assist with the removal and reapplying scoliosis braces, assist students with orthopedic injuries, as well as removing medication patches when needed. The services that are provided by our nurses have a very important educational impact as well. Education occurs with every interaction with our students, whether it's hand washing, cough etiquette, head lice, hygiene, safety, nutrition, physical and emotional health. And this education helps support the student's success by helping keep students safe in school and ready to learn. It reduces the number of students that are sent home unnecessarily, reduces the spread of contagious illnesses, fewer sick days for other students and staff, minimizes the lost educational time with appropriate nursing referrals and interventions, reduces the potential learning deficits from vision or hearing deficits that might be occurring, reduces potential health emergencies, and reduces the lost number of days of school if immunizations are not in compliance, because one of our other roles is making sure that every student has the appropriate immunizations to be in school. The student education programs coordinated by our nurses have included health walks for students, dental presentations, helmet safety programs through Canavania Children's Hospital, safety presentations by Dr. Bernard Scott, and fitness presentations by Hopscotch, and those are both programs also provided from Jersey Shore. And here we have Dr. Bernard and Hopscotch doing a presentation with our students at Land of Home. Staff education that we do provide includes severe food allergies, reactions in school, diabetes, asthma, bloodborne pathogens, seizure protocol, conducting cardiac response drills, epinephrine delegate training, glucagon delegate training, pediculosis, fifth disease, and preventing the spread of germs through hand washing and cough etiquette. And here we have Mrs. Padola taking care of one of her staff members there. Our nurses are also supporting the school-wide effort by wearing red for heart health, monitoring staff blood pressures, providing a heart-healthy breakfast for staff in February, assisting with jump rope for heart, wearing pink, breast cancer awareness and making breast cancer awareness ribbons, wearing yellow for childhood cancer and purple for students with genetic disorders, assisting with the coordination of a Random Acts of Kindness Week, supporting our PTAs and PTOs, participating in building celebrations, and sharing their Irish heritage with students and staff by arranging pipe band visits. Here we have, I actually helped at Newberry School arrange the Random Acts of Kindness Week. Jane Diamond from Aldridge School, she assisted with their 50-year celebration, and I don't know if many people would recognize that's Marguerite Edwards, who was the first nurse at Aldridge School. So that is Jane and Marguerite together, the only two nurses that have been at Aldridge School. We have Bernadette Nastowski with the pipe band from Belmar. They came and entertained on St. Patrick's Day. And then Georgian Brennan with her staff at Taunton wearing red for heart health. Involvement in our school community includes coordinating Thanksgiving and holiday programs, coordinating school supplies and backpacks for needy students, distributing Halloween costumes, coordinating blood drives, collecting used eyeglasses for the Lions Club, and notifying parents of medication recalls. Currently, I have 3 paper copy boxes of glasses that are ready to go for the Lions Club. They're going to be picking them up for us tomorrow, and that was collected district-wide from parents, staff. I even had a couple students who were so happy to bring in their old glasses. The technology the nurses are using in the health offices is also widespread. We're using Howell School and Schoology, school web pages, Excel sheets to do our monthly report, to do our budget ordering, the spot screener, as well as diabetic monitoring. The top corner is a picture actually of an Omnipod, and that's a wireless personal diabetes manager which actually delivers insulin to a student remotely. He checks his blood sugar, dials the numbers, and remotely can administer his insulin. On the bottom is actually a continuous glucose monitoring system which Mrs. Fallon's currently using at Memorial, and that actually shows trendings of the blood glucose. So the mom at home has it on an iPod or an iPad, and she also has that same screen in her office on an iPad, so she sees that trending of blood glucose, so they know when the student's blood glucose is going down or rising. So it's a pretty amazing tool. The nurses are keeping ahead of the curve. They're developing professional growth plans to be in line with the district goals. They're working in PLCs to share and collaborate, and they're conducting peer observations. And those have been particularly helpful. Last spring, Mrs. Brennan was actually able to go over to Land of Pines to see a student who was going to need to be catheterized. He was in the preschool program. He'd be then going to Taunton for kindergarten, so she was able to observe that procedure even before the school year started. I'd like to recognize Janet Martin, who was one of our retirees this year. She had served the district 25 years, and we greatly miss her. We're very happy that she's been able to start her retirement. As well as our district nurses who really, this is what this plan is all about, the hard work that they do. I'd like to thank Mrs. Doyle, Mrs. Callender, Dr. Domina, as well as all of you on the Board of Education and the community. Together, we do make a difference.
I don't have a question, I have a comment, as I was to. I wish I could remember the name of the book, and I don't recall it, but my great-nephew likes me to read to him. And one of the books he has in his room there is a book about how scary the school nurse is. And then after he finally gets
to... Nurse Black Lagoon.
Yes! So after they get this, they realize how friendly the nurse is. Anytime I've been in the schools, I've tried to make a point of stopping by to at least say hello to the nurses. The numbers speak for themselves, but I don't think there's ever, and I'm really confident about that, I don't know that there's ever been a time where I've been in to say hello to the school nurse where some child hasn't come in at some point, whether it's just because they're not feeling good, or they need a Band-Aid, or they just need to lay down for a few minutes, but it's that loving care that I think that the nurses show each one of those children, that make them realize this isn't this scary place. This is like with all of our staff, this is a place of support. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, I'd like to echo Mr. Bongiovanni on behalf of the Board of Education. Thank you for taking such good care of our students.
Thank you, and I will share that with the nurses. A lot of them couldn't be here tonight with other commitments, but I will
We're
definitely.
very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I believe, Mr. Miller?
Yes, I have a question. You did mention about drug referrals, and we know about the opiate problems and stuff like that. Is there a way or a push for at least the middle schools to get Narcan into the buildings? Is there grants or something that we could look into?
So, the topic that is, requires a lot more conversation than that, but, their high schools are considering it and have done it. I don't know of a middle school that, has Narcan, available in the school, but that conversation does exist in the educational, climate today, and, perhaps we should refer that to a committee for some more in-depth, review of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before you leave, Ms. Downey, I know, Mrs. Callen, I'm sure people that, I'll go last.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation, and every year when we have this presentation, it reminds us of the level of work that the nurses do every single day. And what I know for sure is that, and even from the time that I was in the classroom, so many children and their families depend on our school nurses basically as their medical home. I can't tell you the countless number of parents who will say in the morning, well, you seem okay, but if you don't feel great, go see the nurse. It's not, let's stay home and go to the doctor. They have such faith in our school nurses and what, them seeing the children and assessing their needs, that's just a wonderful thing, that they are so confident in the abilities of the nurses that we have sitting in these offices every single day. Well, I shouldn't say sitting because they're rarely sitting, running around in the offices every single day. But the work they do is amazing, and I really do appreciate your report. Was fabulous, and thank you so much.
And I also would like to echo the comments from the board and Mrs. Callen. Thank you for a real thorough report, and it's something we're very aware of. Tonight confirms what we know, right? One of the things that Mr. Bongiovanni kind of stole my thoughts a little bit. I make my way to buildings quite often, as you all know, and I'll look over to the team of nurses here. One of the things that I think is really, look, the board provides us with the resources to make sure we're adequately staffed and we have a fine group and we do the right work. It's clear. But I can't tell you, I walk in buildings and there's such a sense of pride that I feel when I'm in our buildings for lots of reasons, but the nurses are certainly a big part of that. And I can't tell you, I smile every time I have a conversation with one of our nurses. Thankfully, I don't have to take my blood pressure, but I am certainly, the culture in which you all help provide within the schools is sometimes under the radar. And it shouldn't always be, because it takes an entire school community to educate a child. And I think you all know how we feel about the work you do, but tonight gives us the opportunity to celebrate that and to report to the board, and then of course to the county office in follow-up. So I just want to sincerely say thank you. You are extraordinary individuals that do make a difference in our children and our staff's lives, so thank you. With that, sir,
Yes, I believe
board.
it needs to go into executive.
Yes, we do.
I need a motion to go in.
Move it. Second.
Moved by Mr.
Please note the
Bongiovanni.
motion printed in the agenda. The only item this evening is the HIB report.
And we should have a relatively brief executive session.
Relatively brief. The board is in executive session. Take their place at the dais. The board is back in session.
Thank you.
Shall we take the approval of the minutes, sir?
Please.
Make motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Moretti, second by Mr. Bongiovanni. May I take that around, sir?
Please.
Mr. Moretti.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gurman.
Yes.
Dr. Love.
Yes.
Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller hasn't returned yet. Mr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Minutes are approved, 6 votes in favor, with none opposed. The correspondence the board has received will be noted for the record. It is now time for the board president's comments. Mr. Timothy O'Brien, president of the board, your comments, sir.
You know, we had the great pleasure earlier, and I've already said my piece in regards to the extraordinary service of our two departing board members. But I started forward earlier talking about public education, and I think it's important for us to recognize the role of our volunteers on this board and other boards across the country in protecting and preserving something that gives our community, our children, regardless of their background, regardless of their economic status, an opportunity to realize their potential. Public education, especially here in Howell, we're very proud of the work we're doing. We know that under our leadership of our superintendent and his team and our incredible staff, we always seek to continue to improve. You know, what is that they say? You know, perfection is not possible to achieve, but the pursuit of perfection leads to excellence. So we are doing just that. We are leading in that direction, and I'm extraordinarily proud. I know every board member is of what we've accomplished over the past few years. And again, I want to thank Mr. Moretti for his contributions, Mr. Sanchez, and all our board members and citizen members. And I would like to follow up and conclude by saying that because we're at such a high level as a board, we're going to be moving directly into our reorganization and hitting the ground running. We are working very diligently to develop committees so that when January comes, we're ready to start. We've already, due to Mr. Miller's astute suggestion, put out a notice requesting citizen members. We're very fortunate that we have two individuals who have already indicated they're going to step up and serve. But Mr. Sanchez, how many folks do we really need to staff our committees adequately?
I guess the minimum would be 24. Some of the committees can take extra, so maybe more than that. But to
Right.
fully staff all the standing committees would be 24.
So I'll conclude my president's remarks by once again echoing what Mr. Bongiovanni has so eloquently said over the years, and is this, that we need you, we need the citizens of this community to come out, we need your voice, because each citizen member, unlike many other districts, has a vote on the committee, and that's where the work of this board gets done. We sit up here on the dais and we've all done our homework when we get here. We have the notes, we have SharePoint, we're very fortunate that we get the board updates on a regular basis. But when we get to the committee structure, that's where we really do the work. And it's important for our community to realize that and to know that as a citizen member, you have an equal voice to a board member. Your input is invaluable and necessary. So again, if you're sitting out there listening to this, please consider serving on a committee. If you know others who might have an interest in supporting public education, ask them to come out and get involved. It's very, very critical to our success, and we want to be as inclusive as possible to engage our community. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. Again, thank you, and Mr. Isola, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So just my monthly or bi-monthly report for things that are happening around the district that I'd like our community and our board to be aware of and to keep everybody abreast on the happenings. We heard a wonderful report from Lynn Donahue tonight with our nursing report. I thank the board for their support of that work. Secondly, I'd like to inform the board, and it's on the agenda tonight, that I had the outstanding fortune of meeting with Chief Kruger to review our memorandum of agreement with the Howell Township Police Department. It is required that both agencies complete a memorandum of agreement. There are no changes to our practices from the previous year. The department had held it up for a while. There was lots of conversations about for schools that have video streaming capabilities for emergency purposes, as we know we do, developing or embedding a memorandum of agreement portion within that document. What they decided was for that to exist outside the regular required memorandum of agreement. Chief Kudrick and I are working on that language now, and we will be signing a appropriate use of cameras with the police department. So that's the only addition, and that's not on the memorandum that we've signed and is before you tonight for approval. It is an absolute pleasure to work with the Howell Township Police Department under Chief Kudrick's leadership. I can't tell you that at every turn, this department looks to support and maintain safe environments within our schools, and to call them a partner does not really describe their commitment to what's happening between the schools and the police department. It goes beyond that, to be quite honest. Chief Kudrick has now said, if available, he'll send officers in addition to the SROs on trips if we're going, far from the school and stuff like that. So his commitment has really been something that we should all be appreciative of and thankful for. And I know that our staff and our students certainly feel a sense of security when Howell PD is involved, and they go above and beyond. So the memorandum of agreement just kind of solidifies the communication when we notify them with events and things of that nature. No changes to the agreement from the previous year. Mr. Preston will hand around our monthly reporting of suspensions. There were 5 school suspensions that are included in this month's report that will be making its way around to you. In addition to that information, I am proud, and I've been saying it for a couple of times here, and I apologize for the redundancy. However, it is still with great pride that we will once again be recognized for our Future Ready district-wide certification. This time, the county freeholders have invited us to their upcoming meeting. I believe it's on the 13th of December at 5 p.m. down at the Hall of Records in Freehold. And they've invited the board president, Mr. Miller, who is a sitting task force member, as well as myself and Ms. Angle. So we'll be there. All are welcome, but if you're planning on coming, just let me know so I can make sure the county office is aware of that and they have the appropriate seating available. I understand it's a small room. I have not been up there, but that's what I've been told. So our district, along with the other Monmouth County districts, us and Middletown being the only 2 district-wide, I think Manalapan and Englishtown had 1 school being recognized. We'll all be put before the freeholders for recognition, and certainly a great opportunity when our local elected officials see the fine work that's happening in Howell. I think it is something for our community to be proud of. We last Friday celebrated once again with our police department through the PBA, the holiday party, where they take Howell lanes, and they have a beautiful event for so many of our students that are classified students that are there to enjoy the day and meet Santa and Mrs. Claus and have a great day and get to recognize police officers and school officials in a way that is pleasant and happy, and just a really great job by the PBA of Howell Township. So I just wanted to make sure that we took that opportunity to express gratitude for their willingness to do that wonderful work with our students each and every year. Additionally, our Dina School, as you all know from my communication with you, but for our community, our Dina School is recognized as a model professional learning community. PLCs are required by the State Department, and we've talked at this day in quite detail about going beyond compliance and making it meaningful. And our Dina, as well as so many of our schools, and they're a shining example of how to do the work correctly. Dina has been recognized by Solution Tree, one of 200 schools internationally, and the only school in the state of New Jersey to receive this fine distinction. So we want to congratulate Dr. Pinnell and the Dina staff for the fine work that they're doing and for this recognition. So congratulations to them. As you know, this month was, we currently have celebrated this week our Hour of Code. You can remember, I believe it was Mr. John Van Noy as a board member being very active in that processes about getting ready for this. Hour of Code is like any given hour in our schools. It just happens regularly. It was really a program that was promoted to develop an interest in coding for youngsters, but coding is something that is just becoming part of an embedded part of our school community. We are future ready certified, but we're so ahead of the curve in this area. We now unplug during this week. So we say no devices and let's figure out coding. They do sequencing, they have challenges up on bulletin boards, and teachers and staff and students go in front of the board, they try to figure it out manually. So we're actually working backwards and making sure that what they're doing in the computer is taking hold and part of their thought pattern. So really kudos to all the schools for the fine work that they've done with students in this area. And we continue to grow in this area, and it's an important part. It is, we teach world languages, well, coding needs to be one of them. So very good, very pleased to see that work. This past Monday, right here at Middle School North, we were asked to host a statewide central regional ELL Superintendent Institute. I was fortunate enough to be asked to speak. We're a model ESL program, as you all know. Last year I spoke at the panel of Mercer County. This year they asked if we'd be kind enough to host it and then tour some of the buildings and programs at our magnet ESL programs here at North, at our Dina in Adelphia. And we hosted approximately 60 superintendents and directors from around the area, around the state. We had an official from the Department of Education who did a presentation for us. Our staff was phenomenal. Our ESL folks did a panel discussion for the entire audience, and they were giving questions off the cuff, and they looked at problem solve and troubleshoot for these other school districts. And to no surprise anyone here at this days, they were shining examples of the fine staff we have. When I tell you I'm the proudest superintendent, you should have seen me that day. I was beaming from ear to ear, and I've received quite a few messages from some colleagues that I actually know and work closely with, and others that I've never met before, about the enthusiasm and the passion that was so evident throughout the entire day. And that's a testament to our staff and to our folks in the ESL department and the work, how they put Howell's best foot forward on that day. So thank you to all the folks involved with that. And finally, we have our paperless board meeting. We're still working on that. We're down to, we had to put a sandbox together for one of our vendors. There were some concerns we had. They were unable to troubleshoot those, so kind of eliminated that. The last one we wanted to grapple with was board docs, and I know that Mr. Preston and Ms. George have been communicating with them. They don't allow for sandbox for trial, so I know that we reached out to them and wanted to clarify some things that we saw there. Yeah, go ahead.
So, and I think this might be one of the rare occasions where maybe we can get Ms. George to speak, but to be clear, we did do, in the background, the agenda was built simultaneously. So we did our usual process, paralleled that by also inputting everything into board docs as well. It's the rest of the features, the live and in the moment features that we were able to sandbox. However, if I'm understanding correctly, I think the background work of it worked very well, if that's accurate. Yeah. So we now need to do a little bit of an evaluation of what we have left and figure out where it is that we want to land. Cost benefit, et cetera, et cetera. We will probably be having an after the board meeting to discuss, among all the other things that we usually have, what are our next steps going to be. So.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. And with that, my report is concluded. Thank you.
I do believe I have a question.
Just wanted to ask Mr. George, compared to how we used to do it with Word docs, was it easier?
It is easier, yes. Or on my end of it, yes.
Yes.
But there were several ones that were going through, so there's the pluses and minuses for each. It needs to get that.
So, you know the old saying, measure twice, cut once?
Son of a carpenter.
Very good. I believe, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
So that meeting with the freeholders, 14%?
Let me just check my notes. I think it's 13th. Yes, 13th at, I'm going to give it to you, sir, at 5 p.m. at the Hall of Records on Main Street in Freehold. And again, if you're going to be attending, just shoot Ms. Stevenson and or Ms. George an email so we can make sure that the county exec and freeholders are aware of who's coming. Thank you, sir.
Very good. I believe,
Time for committee and liaison reports, sir.
okay, I'll look to my left today. I'll start over with policy. Mr. Gilman.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I have a report from the Policy Committee. Members of the board have received a document reflecting regulation based on the work that the Policy Committee had done recently. Just want to give a little bit of background for a minute or two. We have a policy in effect that was not the point of the discussion at our meeting. We were talking about the regulation. So the policy's been in place, and basically, although I don't want to paraphrase all of it, I do want to stress a couple of basic points about that policy. It states the Board of Education recognizes each pupil's mode of dress and grooming is a manifestation of the pupil's personal style and individual preferences. The board will impose its judgment on pupils and parents or legal guardians only when a pupil's dress and grooming affect the educational program of the schools. And then that policy goes on to indicate that there are prohibitions about what students may not wear or engage in certain grooming practices when they present a health or safety hazard to the individual pupil or to others, materially interfere with schoolwork, create disorder, or disrupt the educational program, or cause excessive wear or damage to school property, or prevent the pupil from achieving his or her own educational objectives because of blocked vision or restricted movement. One other key point in the policy that's been in place for years is that the building principal shall determine whether the dress or grooming of pupils comes within these prohibitions. So that's the policy in place. We also, of course, have a handbook, a manual that members of the community have, parents and families, and all members of the community can have to see what the rules are, including those involved with the dress code. Now, as we all know, what brought this about, the occasion of looking at the regulation, was Mrs. Malley's interest and concern to this. I'm sorry she's not here tonight. But again, I stress that one key point that was of great interest to her was that she had seen something that we'll talk about in a moment that had language that really seemed satisfactory. So I talked about the policy, I talked about the manual. But in addition, there was a regulation that dates back years ago that had been prepared by Strauss-Esme that really has not been included in our handbook, and it is not part of our policy. But again, Mrs. Malley saw that, even though we haven't looked at and used it, and of course, responded to that. I will cite one, although I'm not speaking for Mrs. Malley, but I think one point that was of great interest to her and concern that made a lot of sense, is that she expected that things would be gender neutral. Now, in this document that Strauss-Esme, yes?
May I
Yeah.
just one second? It was the district's old regulation that hadn't been in effect for quite some time.
Right.
So some of the recommended language had come from Strauss-Esme, but I believe it was in the manual back in 2004 or something.
But it is not in the current.
Not today. When we realized a few weeks ago that it had remained up there and was outdated and wasn't being followed with by any building administrator, it was taken down. But that was what Ms. Malley had seen that prompted the conversation. However, when we went back and talked to the administrators, just to make sure that this isn't anything that has been followed, it's been the handbook, the student handbook and the rules that have been in the student handbook that are the procedures that we follow that are outlining the steps, what we're supposed to do in accordance with the actual policy.
So as I understand it, kudos to Ms. Malley for catching that.
Very good. And I would,
on the
yeah, and I would like to say,
website, right?
Yeah.
And we have the current regulation.
We have it. I do want to mention them because a couple of points that are not being used, but that Ms. Malley saw that we really, don't find suitable. There was language having to do with possibilities of prohibiting garments that were extremely low cut, tight fitting, or transparent clothes, bare midriffs and suggestive clothing, as well as skirts, dresses, and pants that end higher than mid-thigh. And that kind of language, which is, depicting, one part of our school population, just didn't seem appropriate. And so, again, kudos to Mrs. Malley for bringing that out. And that was, among other things, what we talked about. So at the meeting, the last meeting of the policy committee, we had 3 building principals there. And of course, it seemed quite appropriate that we had principals dealing with the different grade levels to speak about what goes on. And again, I could read parts of what's in this language that you see in front of you now about this, but the interesting thing is when we talked about the situation for a kindergarten student and the principal and what goes on as compared to, say, the middle school, you realize it's a different environment, a different situation. And so the language, that's here, basically I would stress 1 or 2 things that are maybe more my interpretation of sitting at the meeting. One is that the principals, when they see a situation or something, will relate to the student and handle it at that point. And often, I think that's really all that matters, and happens with the care and discretion that, of course, our administrators or principals have in working with our students. And then, of course, if necessary, then they go beyond that and have contacts with parents. But the impression, I had sitting at that meeting is that we are not aware of any particular set of issues that are outstanding in any of the schools. So I'll end my report with that.
Okay, so basically the current manual and everything else is satisfactory, and the outdated regulations been removed, and we're at a point right now where there's no...
So basically...
No action by the board needed.
No action on the board needed for the regulation, and typically what happens with the regulation, unless it's one that needs to be approved by the board, which there are certain regulations that have to be approved by the board, our practice in the past, way in the past, had been, it just goes into practice, will go into the manual. What we had a few years ago, the board had asked is, after we have a regulation and we work on something at policy, if we could just share it with the board, even though it doesn't have to be voted on, which is why I didn't ask Linda to send it out to you last night, because it was going to be discussed. In hindsight, maybe we should have waited, but I know that in the past, the board had asked to at least see the regulations so they knew what the topic of discussion, but we'll come up with maybe a better way to organize that going forward. But it's not, the regulation that sits before you, that we sent out last night for your information, has not yet been uploaded into the policy online, because we also want to be able to have all of the principals see it one last time, just like we're sharing it with you for informational purposes. We did have a number of principals working on it, even prior to the meeting at the policy committee. Principals came and met with me prior and gave input, and then a group of them came to the meeting. So,
it's a good process and show out a good outcome. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I just have one question on physical education. Section 1. There you go. Now, grammatically it's correct, but it's a little confusing. It says sneakers and rubber sole athletic shoes, semicolon, slip-on shoes, hard sole shoes, and bare feet are prohibited in gym class. Grammatically it's correct because you got semicolon in there, but couldn't we make that second part?
we already discussed that, and we were going to do a period and then start a new sentence. But that was brought to our attention yesterday, and I've already talked to them about changing.
And can I mention, I also note a couple of other changes that are there. First of all, if you have a 1, you don't have an A and a B. It's either, then you should have a 2. So that's another editorial change. But at the bottom, in 2, and again, if you have it in front of you, there's a sentence saying, students unwilling to comply with this requirement will disqualify themselves from participation. Well, the student doesn't disqualify himself or herself. That person is disqualified by the person in authority who has the responsibility for that. So we would say would be disqualified. And then there's a third point that I could note that could be changed. So there'd be a little more looking at some of this.
I think
Nothing
some of that is confidence, so you folks will collaborate with the building leadership and wordsmith it, and we'll get it squared away. But it doesn't require board action at this time, right? Thank you very much.
But there will be further discussion at a policy meeting in regards to will it at some point be a policy or maintain as a regulation?
Oh, no, it will be just a regulation.
Okay.
We have a policy, and this is the regulation that outlines the details of the policy. So no, the regulation was gone through with the policy committee. We went through all of the wording. Everyone shared that they were comfortable. They voted that they were comfortable. We could wait and bring it back, but I haven't.
I don't see any need.
I'll be honest with you, I did have a problem with some of the issues in it, and I would recommend that it go back to policy. I'd like to come to the policy meeting when that happens, though, because I was uncomfortable with some of the wording in there.
Now, I would make the point, again, I started my little presentation with the discussion first of the policy, because obviously the regulation, it discusses who administers the program and how it's administered, but it's the policy that sets the guidelines. And there may be things, if there are concerns, if it is to be addressed, we really have to start with the policy. As well as
So as I understand, Mr. Bongiovanni will join you at a future meeting. Let him know when you're going to be having the policy on the discussion. Mr. Miller.
One of the concerns I have is, I don't have it in front of me, but it says something about at the principal's discretion. My thing is, we have 12 very different principals with 12 very different opinions on what an appropriate dress code could be. So enforcing this throughout the district could be an unlevel playing field for the students. So that is one of my concerns. I know we removed language on what type of clothing and stuff like that and put it to the principal's discretion, and I understand that, but just the idea of having 12 different principals with different opinions issuing different dress codes throughout the district makes me a little uneasy, and that's my little issue with it.
Slippery slope we're going on.
And it was discussed with the policy committee that was brought up. The principals did share, from their perspective, and everyone that sat at the committee that day was comfortable with the wording of it, especially after hearing from the building administrators. But certainly.
I think as a practice, if you have a policy that's too restrictive, it becomes problematic in and of itself.
Yes.
And I understand Mr. Miller's concerns about having different individual perspectives, but one of the things about a leadership team is that there's also the superintendent has the lead on that and can set the tone from the top. So I think there's corresponding factors that balance out the fact that we have 12 different schools, but we have one team. Certainly, turn over to you, Mr. Sullivan.
Sure. So, not sure, I don't have the policy in front of me either, so I apologize. I'm not sure if the discretion speaks to the caused or potential disruption that dress may cause versus a judgment about someone's dress. Again, I'm not sure. Mr. Bongiovanni asked us to go back to policy, so we'll make sure that policy revisits that. But in terms to Mr. Miller's point, I struggle with 12 different leaders on a lot of topics on every given day, but I think there is always administrative discretion when handling discipline, when handling code of conduct violations, and they're just when you sit before a particular judge versus a different judge, there could be a different type of outcome to a hearing. That's inherent in the work. However, and I know this board has great trust in the leadership that we have at the buildings. The point here that I'm trying to make is the policy is to protect students' rights to express themselves in an appropriate manner and wear clothing that they feel comfortable in, as long as that clothing is not disruptive to the education process for themselves or others. And I don't think we should get too lost on much more than that. I don't think the policy, the way it stands, is discriminatory against any type of particular dress. I think it's pretty broad, and I think that's what we're trying to capture, to develop an environment where students can feel comfortable, express themselves in appropriate manners, and be in an environment that education can flourish. And I think the policy does that, but since we're going to be reviewing it at Mr. Bongiovanni's request, we can certainly do that. The other thing I think we're toggling, and I just did it myself, between the regulation versus the policy, and I think that may be a good opportunity for the policy committee to walk through that at its next upcoming meeting, and then hopefully in our January meeting bring back some clarity around this issue. The good news is the policy is, in my opinion, and I think most of what we're seeing, an objective and fair and clean policy. The regulation that we're talking about enacting will give guidance to how we enforce such policies, and I think once we go through that one more time, we'll be able to bring clarity. So if we could table it to our next policy meeting, I think that may be wise.
At this point, nothing will really change because the rules that we follow are actually in the student handbook.
Yeah.
So, and much of the language that's in here was taken straight out of there, which is what we've been practicing for years. So.
The actual practice, there's nothing broken, nothing to fix.
No,
It's just
no,
we had a,
out of the language, we literally took right out of that during the meeting, and we moved it straight into the regulation, just so that there was a regulation. We don't have to have the regulation, we have to have, a dress code. And so right now it exists in the handbook, but at the committee we said, well, we could put it in a regular so it's up there online, someone who doesn't have the handbook in front of them can refer, but we literally pulled the language straight out of the handbook into the regulation.
And I can also attest that as a middle school building principal here in Howell Township for 7 years, prior to joining central office staff, while we, on a rare occasion, grappled with dress code issues, they were always handled in the most respectful manner through a guidance counselor, female, male, so that there was appropriateness. It was not something that reared its head very often, and in my time at central office, I don't know that I have taken one in about 7 years now, 7, 8 years. I'm not sure that I've taken one parent phone call regarding dress code violations. So what we have in place is serving our community well. I think that's the important takeaway here. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be reviewed and looked at and strengthened, right? And I think that's what our goal is.
We talked about the policy meeting, the intent the child's clothing is. If we feel that their intent is to break the regulations, we'll speak to them, speak to their parents, and we'll take it from there. That was something we talked about, I believe. Correct, Mrs. Clinton?
And Mr. Farley even had brought up that, there have been occasions when he's called the parent about the dress, and they've actually said, I'm so glad you called, because I've told, him or her several times that shouldn't be worn to school, and they don't listen to me, and thank you, because now they know they can't wear that to school. So, there was a lot, the entire meeting was just on this topic. We didn't get to the second topic. We didn't spend a lot of time on it.
Being the leader of a school is a multifaceted task every day, and it requires a very special individual able to pull that off. And kudos to our leadership team because the environment you talked about, Mr. Isola, is exactly that. I was thinking to myself, we're very fortunate in our district, knock on wood, that we have had all our experiences so far up to this point have been positive and constructive. And as Mrs. Callender pointed out, in many ways collaborative with the parents, so that's a good thing. And I think, but obviously, because we're going to get to work on at the committee level, we'll table this till we get reports back after the next committee meeting. So thank you very much. All right, that was a good discussion. I believe, Mr. Moretti, we haven't had a safety meeting, or have we had it? Do we have it?
No, we haven't had a safety meeting, but talking about the advocacy,
yes.
We do have some movement on the SRO 3s. The original bill only had, God bless you, the only thing they had was municipal and state police will be able to put in for that position. It turns out that, I'm going to take credit for it. My questioning the fact that I'm a campus police officer, deputy chief, and there was another bill similar to that for retired officers carrying weapons that did not include campus police. So we went through a whole turmoil of trying to get that straightened out. So I figured before this went any further, I should address it. Turns out that not many people have put in for this position, the SRO 3s, because of lack of concern of what is it, how's it going to affect us, you know, what different things, and also you are limiting your pool of people because there are so many different police agencies within the state. So now I spoke to Assemblyman Thompson's people, and a new bill, R-4451, was passed, where in there in the highlighted paragraph, where it says it was amended that law enforcement officers with arrest powers will be eligible. Now, that's a pretty all-encompassing kind of statement. Now that's passed on to the Senate. And I was speaking to people from Senator Singer's office, and they're trying to move that. The session ends in January, so if they don't get it passed through the Senate this January, it may have to be reintroduced. But this would open up more people able to come in, because, I mean, you don't realize how many different law enforcement agencies there are in this state, going from bridge people, and, I mean, there are so many. I was surprised myself. So we're trying to move along on that, so we can get more people applying for the SRO 3s at our schools.
In a way, Mr. Moretti, that was both safety and legislative, you know, when you think about it. So I want to thank you for your efforts, and I do remember you advocating for that in many conversations you had. And one of the challenges that we face in staffing our SL3 program is exactly that, not enough qualified individuals in the pool. And by your efforts, and hopefully the Senate takes it up and gets it into law, we can then have a greater pool of candidates to help us continue to, you know, provide that level of security and safety for our schools. Thank you.
Anything else to add to that, Ron?
No, you said it well, and it was, to your credit, you pushed that quite hard, I'd say.
Call that the Moretti Amendment.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Moretti. Dr. Lowe.
Okay, the Education Committee, November 27th, the Education Committee met. Our meeting was called to order at 4:30 in the large conference room. Myself, Mr. Gurney, Mr. Preston, Mr. Fiore, and Ms. Canada were present. We did talk about the November 6th in-service day. Professional learning survey reflected a really positive feedback, and the feedback will be analyzed by the supervisors to help develop future in-service topics and learning design. So the day was very successful, a lot of collaboration, and there were 200 workshops offered throughout those 4 sessions. 90% of those workshops were delivered by our staff, which is extremely important and great. Future surveys will seek to include student voice as a method of evaluating consistency and cohesion between our learning environments and community at large. We did talk about the New Jersey School Board Student Achievement Report, and we'll cover that a little later. There was an update to the field trip list, Get Air Indoor Trampoline Park. So, pretty popular. So just add that to our approved field trip list. Last month, I believe it was, previous month, we talked about this, the QSAC. And so that statement insurance was reviewed, and board approved was October 18th and submitted to the Department of Ed. So they did review our QSAC. We got a chance to look at our scores also too. and it will be submitted for board approval on December 6th, which you see on the agenda. And the state will be coming in sometime early 2018, solely within the instruction and program indicators, which I have a personal opinion about that. Share. But Mr. Preston knows, and we kind of agree. The Robotics and Engineering Club. The Robotics and Engineering Club, originally grant funded at the Middle School South, has been very successful. Continuing the club at the Middle School South and expansion at Middle School North was discussed. Enrollment demands lead to decreases in several club sections. So for example, instead of 28 sections of cooking, 24. Still very popular. Reduced participations in other clubs have allowed the funds to be necessary to offer the 2 sections of robotics and engineering in both of the middle schools. So key points are no additional costs from last year's budget, $2,700 per school annually for the club. South has all the required materials. North would have approximately $5,000 worth of materials to purchase, but the committee agreed to vote yes for that direction, having robotics and engineering in both our schools. We did spend time talking about the Education Committee goals, which, just as a reminder, for 2017, support deliberate practices of make personalized learning a reality, and then to continue the action plan to achieve our current strategic plan goals while transitioning to a new strategic plan goal as recommended by the committee. So we did spend some time talking about the report. We kind of combined them as a combined topic, which actually worked really well. It was Mr. Preston's idea. And we kind of used them as a lens for discussing the report. In looking at the report, the committee discussed making explicit connections between progress between committee goals and progress toward the goals of the strategic plan. So kind of what that means is, we looked at the strategic plan, and we're doing everything in it, but I've always said we're doing so much more, but really we looked at real specific things that we know in that particular area that we're doing, and every committee can speak to, how we've addressed that. So it was a nice little crosswalk to, to kind of delve a little deeper. So we're implementing it, but we're implementing so many other things that are above and beyond what's there. So as a result of that, with that goal achievement, we thought it was important for our committee outcomes to have a deeper discussion about Chapter 4 and Chapter 7 of that report. And we did talk about that, given that we'll have new board members in place, that may be a good topic for the retreat, going deeper into those 2 chapters. And then we did talk about personalized learning as a discussion, but we kind of tabled that because we were really focusing on, But it was really good to see the strategic plan and also the now many specifics that we did a crosswalk to say, okay, this is the plan, but yet these are the items in there that will be implemented. We also thought that would be good for the community with that, because we are implementing it, but in so many more positive ways and very specific things that are happening in each of those areas.
So almost like thinking out the action plan and the outcomes.
Yes. And I guess that was pretty much it. Next, we're going to have another meeting early 2008. The minutes were approved from the October 16th meeting. Mr. Isola didn't mention that, but we did congratulate the Ardena School for their recognition as a model PLC school, and we're really proud of the success. And how
one of the elements in our strategic plan.
Yes, that was one of the elements.
Sir?
Yes.
So, Dr. Lowe, then we had talked about our focus topic. We tabled it last month to go back to Ed for direction. I left it on there, but in my hearing, and I think through my conversation with Mr. Preston, that we'd like to focus our next focus topic on chapters 4 and 7. So we'll table that for today. Maybe we can I'll resend it and maybe put our focus around that for our next conversation. Is that?
Yeah, and also perhaps report too, both pieces, the discussion about the crosswalk of the strategic plan, and
Yes.
also that would be a good introduction for we're all learning, we're all talking about it together.
If we could maybe build that into our retreat agenda, as we pointed out, rather than do it at a board meeting, maybe if you have any board members coming in, giving them an opportunity to dive in with us. How does the board feel about that?
Yes.
All right, so, great. We'll incorporate that. Very good. Thank you. All right. Vote.
Community interaction has not met since our last meeting, but Mr. Isola and I have had a number of conversations. Some of the feedback that we've gotten has been, when do we have the meetings, how do we do it, where do we have them? There is a community interaction meeting next week, and as typical, we'll also be meeting very briefly with the President's Council. And one of the things that we've discussed is addressing this with the President's Council, the PTO presidents, and possibly changing the routine from when we have meetings. Right now we have it before each President's Council meeting, but maybe instead asking each school if they would like us to have that meeting before one of their PTO meetings. So, for example, if Aldridge won in January, if Ardena won in February, and so on and so on, that if we have the meeting for the hour before a PTO meeting, that we might be able to encourage more people to attend, as we've sat here and said at just about every meeting, every board meeting, that we're trying to find ways to increase attendance of that. So that's at least one of the conversations, a little bit of a preview of something that we'll be talking to them about. Mr. Isola has mentioned before about Facebook in terms of reaching out to the community, and happy to see that he has that up and running, and thank you for those efforts. I'm also going to touch on something that you mentioned earlier in your president's comments about community members and encouraging community members to come out. And I'm specifically going to address our 3 college students who are here. I'm assuming there's 3. There's at least 2. The current president of National School Boards Association is a gentleman, Kevin Syak, from the Sayreville Board. Kevin is the first president for the National Association in 50 years. Kevin started his boardsmanship with Sayreville when he was 19 and still a student at Rutgers. First off, I think I can speak for this whole board. We wish you continued success with your studies in terms of becoming a teacher. We hope that one day you'll find yourself in the best district in the state, which is this one. But if you happen to be Howell residents, get involved. You know, we would like members of the community from all branches, whether they be seniors, students, parents, those who have no children in the district. So if you're moving towards an education career and you want to know what's going on in, as Mr. Isola would say, the best district in the state, we would encourage you to think about submitting a name in January to the board president and maybe joining one of our committees, or at least coming out to a committee meeting to see what that's all about. And good luck with your careers.
If you do submit that application, make sure you say Mr. Bongiovanni sent me.
B-O-N-J, A-B-A, and then I.
President. And one of the things we've noted is how many college students have attended the board meetings, trying to understand what goes on. And one thing that strikes me is, I know among others that certainly Mr. Bongiovanni has definitely gone out in front to talk to the students, to give them a sense of what's going on. I had a chance to talk to one of the people here earlier. And the thing that strikes me is I was thinking maybe we could have a little more of a formal, some sort of a connector with the schools and you know, just because the education of these young people, many of them who are looking to go on into the field of education, is so important. And one of the things, again, I think Mr. Bongiovanni got ahead of me, and Mr. O'Brien, you did too, when you talked about committee meetings. It struck me a few minutes ago that it might be helpful for some of the people to attend not only a board meeting, but a committee meeting. For instance, when Dr. Lowe went through that presentation of the various things going on, for example, in education, there's no way that anybody's going to be absorbing all that, but what you can see is the dynamics of it all. You can see it in the presentation with the nursing. How much is going on to benefit our students? How much our teachers and our staffs and our administrators are doing to work with our students? And one of the great things I think many of us will tell you, you know, is that if you went, for instance, came to and I'll use education committee, and just sat through that and listened to these things and saw the dialogue and interaction, you get a better appreciation of all that's going on. And I'm just wondering, that maybe we can perhaps look to do something a little more with them.
I think that's a good suggestion, Mr. Goodman, and maybe Mr. Isola has some thoughts on that?
Sure, well, every once in a while I do this and I wonder if I've lost my sanity or not, but here I go.
It's an interesting practice there.
Yeah, here we go, sir, here we go. So Mr. Mangiavani is current chair of the community interaction. Through my roundtable, we get the opportunity to meet with the Brookdale Education Chair and Monmouth University. If it's the board's pleasure and the committee's chair's pleasure, I can certainly see if they would be interested in myself and community interaction chair or a particular board member go out and do something at the university or at the Brookdale Community College, which is our Monmouth County program, as you know, in terms of educating about how things work, maybe do a class visit and see if there's any room for that. But one of our goals, as you know, is partnership with university and connectivity to the community in various ways. I'd be more than willing to spend an afternoon or an evening or 2 or 3 out at the Brookdale campus helping youngsters choose a path of professional work such as education, because I think it's that important.
Well, I'd love to do it and we can have that conversation, I think, with the board's approval. I'd certainly be willing to do that.
It's great. At the end of the day, I know there's probably a process in place, I'm not familiar with the details on student teaching and internships, equivalent of internships, opportunities for folks to come in. But if we can broaden the connections to the various schools that serve our community and can allow us to bring students who want to become teachers into the environment and work with the board as well, that's great. They'll be able to see how it's done, and I think that'll be a very helpful thing. So, fine, let's move ahead with that. If that's the consensus of the board, then have at it, Mr. Isola.
Have at it.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Finance Committee hasn't met. We are meeting on the 14th, where we'll go over the audit and looking at a new procedure to deliver the transfers to the board. As I reported last month, due to new reporting, we had to expand our bills list, our transfer list to many accounts, which if you would have looked at our backup before it was pulled, it was over 140 pages of backup.
Of a lot of zeros.
A lot of zeros. So it was pulled for this evening, and the Finance Committee will be looking at that and trying to make a better report to send to the board for us to review. And the other thing is on Monday, I'm going to have the opportunity to meet with the incoming Senator Vin Gopal with the Monmouth County School Board Association, so I'm going to bring some of our concerns to him. So he can answer any prior to him getting in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan. I know the work of the Finance Committee is never done, and especially now. Right, absolutely. Very good. I know our esteemed operations chair is enjoying a deserved trip to Florida because of her children.
Yes, at the cheerleading finals.
Right.
I think they took 4th place, so congratulations to them.
Absolutely. But in her absence, Mr.
Yes.
I think you have anything to report?
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Malley asked me to deliver the report for the Operations Committee. We met on November 28th. Had quite a full agenda. Ms. Malley has been the leader in recognizing the waste and frailties, let's say, of the USDA rules about forcing a full lunch on students, whether they want it or not, in order for it to qualify. She initiated some composting, which was one way of making, lemonade out of the lemons, if you will. And we discussed some information she found about now we are allowed, we had not been allowed in the past, to have what they're calling a share table, where the students can put their apple or their juice on there. Ms. McDonald was there and embraced it. However, we will be talking to the school nurses and administrators because it still raises some questions if it's not controlled about allergies and temperature control. So we're probably going to start small on things that are not recognized on the allergy list that you saw tonight in the nursing report, and start at least trying to make some food recyclable rather than going to waste. We had a citizen member there, Ms. Brown, who presented an idea for bus ID cards, and we did inform her that in the ESIP program, tying everything together, we're looking at new bus software that may include some accountability and attendance factor on the in that purchase. I made the committee aware that we are due to 2 failures and a bus that hit 2 deer this year. For some reason, van actually. Why 2 deer were attracted to that one van, we're still trying to figure out. But we are at our minimum for the small bus routes that we are running. However, there are no vans available with the integral car seats that are part of our spec. If we were to find one, I informed the operations committee, then Mr. Miller as finance chair, that we would probably be moving to try to purchase it just so we're not on that knife edge. We're just, one traffic jam away from being late, and we try not to do that. The ESIP update, it's going well. The solar bid, it's called a solar electric PPA, it's called a purchase power agreement. That is being opened this Friday. We are receiving the bids, and the committee reviewed and ratified the ECM list, which is the energy conservation measures that we will be going forward with in the next step of the ESIP, which is both the engineering and the financing. Ms. Engel was present and discussed 2 very important things. One was the website upgrade. Mr. Miller and I some time ago attended a seminar where they talked about ADA compliance for the website, and we are seeking to make ourselves very compliant with that. We are issuing that RFP initially, not opening it, but issuing it this Friday. And we will be seeking a contractor to both build and maintain the website. And on the agenda this evening, you see the result of a very, very intense study of our copier fleet. And originally we started at 17 machines becoming obsolete, and you'll see this evening that we are only recommending the purchase of 8. So we're reducing the recommended new purchase by 9 machines. It was reported, and I'm very proud to say it's been one of my favorite causes, maybe it would be a bad way of saying it, but since 2009 we've reduced our paper usage from 45 million sheets down to 15 million sheets. That still sounds like a very large number, but it is something that we continue to work on, and Ms. Engel and her team are partnering with us to continue to try to shift what we do need, A, reduce what we need to print, but B, shift what we need to print from the more expensive printer style production machines to what's called an MFP machine, which is about 1/3 the price to produce. So it was a very busy meeting. I have more notes if anybody has questions. That's the Reader's Digest version of the report. So thank you.
Sharpen that pencil pretty good, don't you?
Try. But it's a very inexpensive pencil before I sharpen it.
Thank you, Mr. Sanisek. Yes, Mr. Russell.
Point of clarity, those figures were annual, right?
Annual paper usage, yes.
That better not be wrong. Okay.
Please thank us as well.
Yes, exactly. All right, I know it's, progress is being made on all fronts, including our own desire to go paperless, and we'll get there. I applaud the efforts of the Operations Committee, hard work, which, as I remind everyone, that hard work resulted in one of the smoothest openings for transportation in years. Kudos to everyone involved. And look forward to continued success from that. One of the mandates that you follow is the operations side is always the source where we look to economize and do savings, but at the same time provide support to our staff, because it's our staff that, this human element provides the education, but without operational efficiencies, oftentimes we're strapped for cash to fund our program. So the efforts that you and the operations committee make on that are well appreciated, because that frees up dollars to fund the mandates that are so critical for our children. So thank you. All right, so I believe that concludes our committee briefs.
Yes, it does. It is now time for the first public comment. May I ask that?
You may.
Whereas the Howell Township Board of Education determines that comments from the public may last 45 minutes, and those comments will be conducted in accordance with its bylaw 164.1. Individuals may be limited to 3 minutes each. The officer with respect to time and decorum will be the president of the board. Mr. Timothy O'Brien, may the floor be open.
Yes.
Other comments at this time?
Good evening. My name is Debbie Potter. I run the Howell Inferno Basketball Organization. I'd like to talk about the fair distribution of gym usage. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to shaping young athletes into competitive players while fostering to build young men of good character. Every month our organization is involved in community service. We also offer mentoring and tutoring within our organization. I also want you to know that I personally have been a recreational coach for the Howell Basketball Club for 13 years, as well as many of our coaches and parents are recreational coaches for Howell Basketball Club. I would like to address the fair distribution of the gym usage. There are 5 regulation-sized gyms in Howell, Taunton, Maine, and Newbury, Maine, Middle School, North, South, and Memorial. These are all regulation-sized gyms with multiple baskets. Middle School, North, and South are actually a gym and a half. These gyms also contain multiple baskets. However, Howell Basketball Club has control of 92% of these gyms. I have a spreadsheet, if you can hand this out, of the gym uses of those main gyms. You can also look it up on the community use site. These gyms are booked from 6 to 10 p.m. However, often they're not even used the entire time, and that time is never returned. And the splitting of the gym usage, maybe I'm asking for consideration of that. Maybe 6 to 8, 8 to 10, but with one organization not controlling the 6 to 8 time. We are an AAU organization that plays league, tournament, and college showcases. We have 3 teams traveling to NCAA live college tournaments in Baltimore, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. this year. Our players are at a disadvantage in all of this due to never having time to practice in a regulation-sized gym. We often have 2 or 3 teams practicing together on small courts with only 2 baskets. We are not asking for them to give up time. We are asking to trade our smaller gyms for regulation-sized gyms. I will gladly donate any time to help with organization of this gym usage. I understand that seniority is the way gyms have been issued. However, in a growing district, I would hope fairness would also be considered. What Howell did 15 years ago should be updated. Again, I would gladly trade off smaller gyms for the larger gyms. According to board policy, gyms should be returned if they're not used. This is never enforced. I have reported it several times. I can tell you gyms are empty or only used partially. I think with some organization of usage and fairness of scheduling, this matter can be worked out. According to their website, Howell Basketball Club has 11 teams, the Howell Hawks. We have 8. I know gym usage is often outsourced by non-Howell Basketball Club, non-Howell Hawk teams. Shouldn't every team apply for permits and every team have the same rules and regulations? Shouldn't gym usage come from buildings and grounds? All teams should be accountable for getting their own permits. All teams using Inferno gym time are Inferno gyms. We have our own AAU insurance plus supplementary insurance. Every time that we run a different event that requires more insurance, we provide updated insurance. Recreational gym usage is set by December 1st. All unused spots should be returned. If for some reason a gym is needed for a school event, practice should be canceled. Oftentimes, the gym is left empty to accommodate possible cancellations. December through March is rec basketball time. We understand that this is a larger amount of boys and girls playing. However, we should have access to one of those main gyms, at least during that time. This is not one organization versus another organization. Again, I coached for 13 years. I'm doing the 9th and 10th grade boys this year, as well as many of our coaches and parents volunteer. I understand gyms are used by many organizations, I am not sure if anyone else is requesting the larger gyms. I am here making that formal request. It is as simple as trading of times and allowing access to these regulation-sized gyms. Fair distribution to all children involved. I have provided several times names and addresses of every infernal player and coach. I do feel this is a sensitive and time-sensitive issue because our 3 top teams are traveling to live NCAA college tournaments in March. Please let me know how to proceed with the fair distribution of gyms, and again, I will volunteer anytime needed to sit down and work out this distribution. Thank you.
Additional comments? Seeing none, may the floor be closed? Floor is closed, sir. It's now time for the consent agenda, and may we take the consent and the addenda, and I have it here.
Yes.
Please note, as you should have in your packet, we are reading in for 4001. Approve the name Alyssa, A-L-Y-S-S-A, Pasqua, P-A-S-Q-U-A, step 1, 40,000, and pulling, as Mr. Miller said, 6,004 and 6,005. With that, sir, can I have a mover and a second?
Moved by Mr. Miller. Seconded by Mr. Sanchez. Can you
May I
take
take that around, sir? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mr. Gurman?
Yes, except I will abstain on 3000-20.
Thank you. Dr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Moretti?
Yes.
Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
The consent agenda and the addenda are approved. 7 votes in favor, none opposed, with the abstention noted for the record. May I take the second public comment, sir?
Yes.
Please note the motion in the agenda. The officer with respect to time and decorum will be the president of the board, Mr. Timothy O'Brien. May I open the floor again, sir? Are there additional comments at this time?
Seeing none?
None? Thank
Close the
you.
floor. Okay, I believe that we go to our
Ms.
last.
Valley's not here to make the adjournment motion.
Need a
so-
motion to adjourn?
I make that.
Jim and Angel makes the motion.
We are adjourned.
You're adjourned. Thank you.
Have a very happy holiday, everyone. Be safe. God bless and see you all next year.